Hello everyone, and welcome to a new thing I'm doing, where I'm going to upload speed draws of my art and sort of just talk about my thought process that goes into making them. So I thought I'd start off with this character, the Broken Doll, who's a major character in an upcoming D&D campaign of mine that I've been working on. So while she comes in, I want to talk about sort of the campaign and her role in it, but I can't talk too much about her just because she's a very important NPC and I want my friends to be able to watch this video. So this campaign was inspired by the FromSoft games like Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, those, as well as other dark fantasy like Berserk. So she has a sort of convoluted origin as to how I made this character, because she actually started as one of my player characters in Elden Ring. I actually found her face sliders on the Elden Bling subreddit, and by this user, who I'll put on screen. And so after that, I made her into a character in my Elden Ring, and then I sort of extrapolated from there. I did art of her, and then she sort of developed into her own character. And this was about 4 years ago now, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, so she's been around for a while. So this character, the Broken Doll, was more inspired by the Plain Doll from Bloodborne, as well as Melina, in sort of the roles she serves in the story. I drew the second version of her just to make sure I was getting the body proportions, but also because I wanted to do a second piece of her, which I initially wanted to include in the speed draw, but it was taking too long. But I'll put that piece up at the end anyways. Now, I'm going to do a couple iterations of her face, just because I was really struggling with it, especially the lips. I write in, I could easily draw this at any other angle, and I think that's really important of things to come. I spend a long time on this angle of this face, but then I eventually just erase it and start over completely. And so I wanted her to have very long limbs, just because if you look at the concept art of the Plain Doll, you can see like her arms are actually very long. So in the same vein, I wanted this character to have very long limbs. And I also wanted her to be very tall, because that's another thing I like about the Plain Doll, how when you visit her in game, she's like a head taller than you. This character is 6'6" standing. So, yeah. And she's specifically called the Broken Doll just because of the cracks across her face and her missing arm and a leg. And she is sort of a known figure in the world. She's famous for like causing havoc, quote unquote, in the campaign setting. But going off of appearances, she's called the Broken Doll because of those things. She has a name, but it's sort of, her name is going to be an ongoing mystery in the campaign, so I'm not saying it here. So to talk a little bit about myself as an artist, I've been doing digital art for about 6 or 7 years now. I have no sort of formal education in it. Everything I do is self-taught, and I'm still learning, so it's a day-by-day process. Every day I improve and every day I get better. I've been drawing for that long, but I haven't really posted my art before just because I'm very shy. But I decided to start posting it now just to see what sort of opportunities it brings, because I'm fairly confident in my art nowadays. Most of what I draw nowadays is like OCs for the campaign. I obviously, besides practice, but most of my pieces are going towards my campaign right now. And to talk a bit more about the campaign, it's also inspired by, besides the FromSoft games, it's also inspired by like mythology and stuff, and like general history and like classic history. Those are just things that I'm generally a fan of and I like learning about, so they sort of naturally found their way in, and yeah. And along the same vein, I would say my biggest inspiration in art is like the natural sort of human form. I just like looking at it and I think it's aesthetically pleasing, and so a lot of my efforts in my art have been practicing bodies and like making them realistic and gestural and stuff. And so my next few videos are going to be focused on the gods of this world, just again because mythology is very inspiring to me. And while I'm using D&D mechanics and D&D. A few D&D things made their way in. Most of the world building I've done is completely homebrew. It's pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie, but it's serviceable for a campaign. So while I didn't want to go 100% in this direction, I wanted her outfit to resemble that of a maid. So very black and white and a lot of ruffles, just because dolls in this world are sort of like a subservient working class type of people, and they have like no choice in it, just because they're artificial people. And that's like very much going to be a part of this character's struggle, is her nature as an artificial life form, and a life form that was made to be subservient. Her outfit and her hair are actually based off of a real porcelain doll that I found online, and I wanted her hair color to sort of appear like she had been living out in the wild for a few years, so it's like I wanted it to be like a faded sort of dye. So that's why it's pink. I wanted it to appear plausible that she had like ginger hair, just because part of her backstory is that she's been living out in the land for a while. This will come up again later when I add a bunch of dirt to her. So as a living doll, I sort of based her joints off of actual ball-jointed dolls, or BJDs. And I think my favorite part of the drawing is her joints and stuff, just because I really liked how they turned out in the end. I just really like the sort of mechanical aspect of them. Not mechanical, but you know what I mean. And the same general philosophy applies to her fingers. They're very tactile and they have those joints, and I wanted them to be very long and slender like her limbs. And I have an in-universe explanation as to how they move. It involves alchemy, but I wanted her limbs and joints to be plausible, that they can bend like human joints do. And her feet are out just because, again, this campaign is based off FromSoft games, and also I just wanted to show off her joints again. I realized later that I made this foot entirely too big, so that's something I'm gonna fix later, don't worry. So I was struggling with the cloak earlier, and I sort of settled on doing a veil instead of a cloak, and so what I based her hood off of was actually a Spanish mantilla. I made it black, and I just wanted to add cool patterns to it. And as I'm doing the flats, you can probably see that I was sort of debating whether to make the dress white or black. It was just more so a decision of thematic importance to me, like whether I wanted her to appear more innocent and pure, or whether I wanted her to appear sort of like she's mourning. And just as one last self-own, I decided to change the hair last minute from braids to more sort of ring curls, I guess. I just wasn't liking the braids. That it's as simple as that. And so what I like to do in my art, instead of doing a normal line art layer and sketch line art and stuff like that, I like to actually just turn my sketch into part of the piece. So what I like to do instead is to take my sketch and make it into a linear burn layer, and then put the colors underneath it. That way the sketch shows a bit of that color, and also it saves me a lot of time because I don't have to do a line art layer. So what I like to do is take a multiply layer and just fill the entire layer with a dark color. And then what I do is take a white and actually paint over it. And that way the white will make the original colors, because it's on a multiply layer, it'll make the original colors come out. And then what I do after is I merge all the layers and do an overpaint layer, which is my favorite part of the process. So there are also a couple things I want to just clarify real quick. The main one being, despite their similarities, this character is actually not inspired at all by Revenant from Night Rain. This character pre-exists Revenant, and it's very much just a case of it's a very strong coincidence that I'm very mad about because of how similar they are. They're mostly similar in their sort of power set and their general vibe, and both of them are dolls, I'm pretty sure. I don't know, I actually haven't even played Night Rain. And I also want to just talk about her brooch real quick, the green and gold brooch that she wears around her neck. I wanted it to match the color of her spiritual powers, but I was actually mostly inspired to add this brooch from Violet Evergarden, which is my favorite anime. I'm pretty sure the brooch is like nearly the exact same color as Violet's brooch and her eyes. And I gave her a very simple background this time, it'll come in soon. I've been practicing doing more elaborate backgrounds recently, but not for this character. She gets a very simple one. I just wanted it to appear like she's in shadow and darkness. And so what I like to do after the overpaint layer is just add a simple overlay, and then brighten the face and darken the rest of the body just to sort of draw more attention to the face. And finally, what I'm going to do is add in the ghost arm, and also add the sort of this bright green color coming out of the cracks in her face. I wanted it to sort of appear like there's a power within her, like spiritual power within her that she can manifest at times, which is why I did the ghost arm on a separate layer, just because I wanted to be able to take it away if I needed to. So yeah, we should be coming to an end now. This was a very fun art piece to do, and I really liked it. This is my 4th time drawing this character, so by this point I think this is the final design of her. Here's that other piece that I was talking about, and I wanted to... Unfortunately, I couldn't talk as much about the lore of her for this one as much as I want to talk about the lore for the characters going forward. That's just because, again, I wanted my friends to be able to watch this video. So, yeah, that should be it, and, bye!